Well, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you guys are at in the country. I want to welcome you to our webinar, and we appreciate you taking some time to learn a little bit more about this. Got some great guests here that'll share a lot of really interesting information of ways that can help you with training and also funding some different technology items. So, want to kind of start by. Oops. Sorry, small technical difficulty here. There we go. Sorry about that. I want to introduce our guest. So first of all, my name is Paul Gandrud, and I am the National Sales Executive for a company called Transportant. Um, and we have some great guests on. We got Pat Hamilton, who works for the I Love You Guys Foundation. Ron Gann, who is a transportation security inspector for the TSA in Iowa. And then we also have Kurt Stumph, who is the superintendent for the Pequot Lakes School District in Minnesota. So these are going to be some of our great guests here. Sorry. Just a couple of housekeeping notes here too. All of the attendees here right now will be muted. We do have an ask a question feature. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, please type it in there. And hopefully at the end of the webinar, we'll have enough time to be able to get an opportunity to answer some of those questions. If we don't have time, I'm sure we can get the questions answered, and we can also email it out to you, because this recording is going to go out to everybody that either is attended today or is just registered. So one of the things about our webinars that we try really hard to do is we don't want this to turn into some kind of an infomercial for Transportant, and it won't. We want to keep the integrity of this because we actually want to provide some information to you guys that's going to be very useful. But I do want to introduce our company just to give you an idea. So Transportant, we are an all-inclusive bus monitoring system that includes live video, GPS. We're the only fully integrated system that's out there right now. We also offer ridership and also turn-by-turn directions with tablet. So if you're looking to ever get into some kind of a software or want to have more information, we'd be happy to share it with you. We're doing this in conjunction with the I Love You Guys. We are an official partner with them, and that's a great partnership for us. We got involved with them because part of the whole reunification process that I Love You Guys talks about all the time obviously involves the transportation department. And so when we first started talking, they really didn't have a partner in the transportation world. So we got together, and it's been a great partnership. With some of the technology we can provide school districts, it really does help in that reunification process. So I do want to introduce Pat Hamilton, or we've introduced him. So Pat, if you could just take a few minutes or a couple of minutes and just tell them a little bit about yourself and the I Love You Guys Foundation for people that don't know.
Sure. Yeah, hi everyone. It's nice to see. Well, I can't see you all, but if I could, it'd be nice to see you all. So anyway, yeah, my name's Pat Hamilton, and before I joined the I Love You Guys Foundation, I worked in public education on the operations side of the house. I worked for Adams 12 5-star schools in the north part of Denver metro area, and spent 23 years with the district, all on the operations side. The last 8 years of that was the chief operating officer. So I've been involved with transportation in some form or fashion for a big portion of my career, and have a deep appreciation for the work that transportation, the services that they provide to our students in our schools, and getting them not only to and from school, but also getting them to and from different activities during the middle part of the day as well, and then the role that they serve during a crisis, because that's pretty important. So yeah, that's who I am. And then I officially joined the I Love You Guys Foundation team as an employee back in May, and I'm the Alliance Director. And before that, though, I have been involved with the foundation since 2008 and served on their board of directors, and also helped develop the standard response protocol and the standard reunification method, which we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, you guys are involved in so many different districts around the country. It's a pretty impressive reach.
Yeah, we're in as of this year, we're in 50,000 district schools agencies across the country. We're also in the Department of Defense education activity. So that's 11 different countries through military schools. And then we did training in Dubai this year and trained 11 different countries, I believe, or 12 different countries on our school safety programs. And then recently we're contacted by the state of Tasmania and Australia, letting us know that they have an interest in adopting our program. So we're becoming an international program, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is. So just to kind of share some more information about it, because part of the thing about the webinar here is some items and trainings and funding sources that can really help schools stretch their budget. So for you, why is it essential for the K-12 transportation professionals to understand the standard response protocol, which is one of your big deals?
Yeah, so the standard response protocol is all about creating a lexicon, a shared common language with not only our school staff, but our students, our community, and also our first responders. So when we first started this work back in 2006, 7, 8, we were doing a lot of research, and what we found is that the terminology for things, for example, lockdowns, secures, it was all over the board. And it created confusion not only for our law enforcement agencies, but also our community and for our students and our teachers. So that's kind of at the root of the standard response protocol. It's based on 5 actions. We have hold in your classroom, secure, which is something's going on outside of the building. We want to get everyone inside and lock the doors. Lockdown, which is we're all pretty familiar with that one. Evacuate and then shelter in place. So on any given day across the country, schools are using those protocols, and it can impact you. If you're a bus driver and you are on your morning route, for example, and you're going to drop off students at a school, and that school goes into a secure because maybe there's a bank robbery down the street or something like that, or something occurring in the community that is not safe to drop off those students. If you hear that come over your bus radio, or you receive some information over that via different kind of communication system in your bus, it's important that our drivers know that, okay, I was going to drop students off there. They're in a secure. That means that building, everyone's inside and the doors are locked. So I can't get kids in that building. So it's really important for drivers to know, or transportation directors or our dispatchers to know, if that's occurring, that we've got to divert that bus to somewhere else. We can't send them right to that school and just expect that they're going to drop off. For that matter, even sending a bus into that community, depending upon what's occurring, could be a dangerous situation for the driver and the students on that bus. So understanding the common terminology and what's happening is a really important thing for our transportation teams and our transportation departments. Lockdown and evacuate, those are things that are going to impact transportation as well. But I think it just helps not only our drivers as well, but I mean, we want to make sure that anyone that's out in the field, you could have tradespeople, you might have staff that are going from school to school to provide different services, audiology services or something like that. Having an understanding of what this terminology is and what it means and how that could impact your day is really important.
Yeah, it is, because that was the one thing when I got introduced to you guys, the essential aspect of what transportation can do in these situations. So the other thing was, there's certain protocols that might affect and impact the transportation more than others. Can you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the ones that come to mind, first off, I was saying, I think it's important that transportation teams and all school staff know all the protocols. But the ones that come to mind when we're thinking about transportation, and I was kind of reflecting on this morning. Secure, we just talked about that. That means that you're not going to be able to drop your students off, or you may not be able to pick students up because they can't come out of the building. Evacuation is one that we also should be thinking about. So, what happens in the middle of the day if we have to evacuate a school that's got 500 or 600 students in, or more, 1,000 students? We're all familiar with, we have a lot of drivers in the morning for our morning routes. We have a lot of drivers that are active in the late afternoons for our evening routes. And then middays, our midday routes, sometimes you could have as few as, maybe 50% of your drivers available to you during your midday routes. So what happens if we have to evacuate a school due to a gas leak, and it's an immediate evacuation? So understanding how evacuation is going to work in your district and how transportation is going to respond and support that evacuation, because they're really key in that, especially if it's something like a gas leak where you can't just walk a couple of blocks, you maybe have to walk a mile. So having a good understanding of that protocol is really important. Lockdown is another one, because if we go into a real lockdown in a school, that means that there's an act of violence or act of assailant or something dangerous is happening inside that building. Eventually what's going to happen is that lockdown is going to be released, and then you're going to have to evacuate that school to a reunification site. So again, here's another situation where we are relying on our transportation team to come in and basically evacuate an entire school on buses, most likely, and move them to a safe location. So those are two that come to mind for me, in addition to secure. Shelter in place is probably the one that's not quite as important, but again, it's important to know that if you're a driver. So what if you are, I grew up in Oklahoma, live in Colorado now, we still get tornadoes in Colorado. But if you're in your bus and you hear that a school has just been told to shelter in place for a tornado, and your bus is pretty close to that area, you're going to want to know that, and you're going to want to know what that means for you as well. It's like you've got to get yourself to a safe spot. So transportation, understanding those protocols, and knowing that any one of those protocols could really impact your day and how you're going to go about your operations for that day, it's really important.
Yeah, that is important. Can you explain the standard reunification method and how transportation plays a crucial role in a successful reunification? Because this is kind of how
Yeah,
we
so
got involved with you guys and how, the importance of that.
So reunification happens, if there's something that disrupts your school day and you have to end your school day early. And we think about this, again, I'll use power outage as an example this time. So in our district, we had schools that had interior classrooms that didn't have, natural light in those schools. And it might be an elementary school with first graders in it. And so let's say power goes out at 10 o'clock and it's going to be out for the day. Well, you can't have school for the day. And we need to have some sort of method to exchange custody between us and the parents of those students. I can't just ring the bell and let a 5 or 6 year old walk home, or put them on a bus and drop them off at a bus stop, because I don't know what that student's going home to. So the reunification method is a way that we can account for students and exchange custody between the school district and those parents. So that's what the reunification is. And sometimes you can do it on site, and sometimes you have to evacuate a school because of a situation that's dangerous at the school, and you have to move kids to a different area that's safe and then run reunification. So that's kind of overall what reunification is. Now, here's a little known secret that I really actually think it's not a secret at all, but the best logistics people that we have working in a school district, and this is my opinion, is our transportation team. They know how to get things from point A to point B, in the most efficient and effective way. And they oftentimes do that when they're understaffed or they don't have enough buses or things like that. So they're great logisticians. So having your transportation team be involved with your reunification team is also a really important thing. So again, we would, at my school district before I retired from Adams 12, we had transportation leadership team members that were on our reunification team. So if we had to run reunification at a school, we would send that whole reunification team to a school or to a reunification site to conduct that reunification. We always had transportation people involved with that because they understand logistics, they understand processes. So even if you're not going to evacuate your school that day, having transportation people involved with this process is a really helpful thing.
Yeah. No, the last question is, because a lot of these materials that you guys provide are free to school districts. So where can they find out more information about all these different programs that you offer?
Yeah, so you can go to iloveyoguys.org, and that's the letter U, not the word U, and you can find all of our resources there at no cost. So there's lots of information there as far as SRM, that's the standard reunification method, SRP, which is the standard response protocol, all of the materials that you would need to implement that in your school district or for your transportation team. There's PowerPoints presentations that you can download. They're PowerPoint and Keynote. There's instruction guidebooks that you can use to help you learn how to do the presentations yourself. So all of that stuff is available at no cost. Thank you for partners like you all that allow us to do that. So that's a great place to go, a great resource. I'm going to circle back on one thing, Paul, real quick. And I know you said you didn't want this to sound like an infomercial, but one of the things that we struggle with when we evacuate a school, especially during a crisis, is always maintaining some sort of active roster of knowing who was at the school, and then when we get to a student assembly area, who's there now. We've actually done this in District 12, where we had students walk onto the bus and state their name and their grade, because we were just trying to figure out, it's like, okay, we've got to account for these students before we remove them from this school. We're going to put them on the bus now. So we have a paper kind of roster of who was at school that day. Now we're going to create a roster by just having students look into a camera and say their name and what school they attended, their grade, whatever information it is that you need to do that. So that's a really helpful tool that people don't think about using on their buses that I've actually had to do before in a reunification. So again, don't want it to sound like an infomercial, but there's a lot of different opportunities to do that, and that's something to consider. But anyway, back to the website. Yes, please go to our website. Everything there is available at no cost.
Yeah, and I'm actually attending. We got some briefings coming up out in California, and actually I am attending this one, just like the one I did in Minnesota. So you want to talk just a little bit about that?
Sure. So the briefings that we have coming up in San Mateo here in just a few weeks now, it's sneaking up on us. It's going to be here before we know it. That's a 2-day conference that we will host. The first day is all keynotes. We have keynote presenters from all over the country. One that we're just confirming now is CISA. It's the Cyber Security Infrastructure. Sorry, don't know the full acronym there, but they're going to come in and talk about all the latest hoax and swatting threats that we've been getting across the country. They're going to be discussing that. John Michael Keyes will be there. Stacey Avila, so John Michael was the daughter of Emily Keyes. He'll be doing a keynote. Stacey Avila was the hostage negotiator that was on the other side of that wall on the day that Emily lost her life. So she'll be doing a discussion as well. So that's a lot of good information on day one. And then day two, we'd go deep into the standard response protocol and standard reunification method. It's a full day training just on those two protocols.
Yeah, the presentation that John Michael makes is unbelievable. So very,
yes,
it's something that everybody should see just to appreciate what they went through.
You will be motivated to take action, I can assure you, after
Absolutely.
spending a couple of days with us. Yeah.
All right. Well, Pat, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. And Pat's contact information will be out there. So if people want to reach out, we can certainly do that as well. So I do want to, oh, sorry, I had one more thing there. And this is the website that Pat
Yes,
wanted.
sir.
I guess I had that in the wrong order. Apologize.
Yeah, no worries.
But thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I do want to be able to bring on Ron Gann with TSA. And I got introduced to Ron in Iowa. We did what we called a traveling road show for the Iowa Pupil Transportation Association. And we went to several different regions in the state. And as I listened to Ron's presentation, I was kind of amazed at the number of, I guess what Ron will term free or complimentary services that TSA provides to school buses. And we're always looking, and I know districts talk to me all the time about different things, different funding, different training. So Ron, can you just kind of introduce yourself a little bit and give a little bit of a history of you?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for everybody for participating in this webinar. It's my pleasure to be a part of this. Paul's asked me a couple of times to come and be a part of it, and just really appreciate it to be with you. I do serve as a transportation security inspector with the Transportation Security Administration. Our office is based out of Omaha, Nebraska. I do live in Iowa, but we have an area of responsibility for both the states of Iowa and Nebraska. And so being that Omaha is somewhat in the center of both states, it's a nice location to be. And so we provide a lot of services, a lot of programs and activities that are security minded and helping operators and surface transportation professionals kind of just be a little less complacent in their walk and their job and what they do from day to day. We work with school bus companies, both the school districts and contracted school buses, as well as we work with mass transit, both the large and small transit systems. And we also help out with the trucking industry, as well as working with various pipeline industries. We're getting pretty heavy into the cybersecurity area here as of recent, because TSA has deemed it pretty much probably the biggest threat that's out there now that terrorists can get their hands on and be able to utilize to disrupt the system for whatever cause that they might have on their agenda. So I know that probably most of you have heard that, about TSA, and at the airport, that is definitely a mode of transportation that TSA supports and due to congressional efforts and so forth. But we do have a surface component where we actually have areas with the railroad system, both passenger and freight rail, that the reason they give me the title of inspector is because I have a duty to go out and ensure compliance with congressional mandated regulations that those companies have to go by with certain security programs, and having security coordinators established, and that they're reporting any threats and of concerns that might be of significance to their company. And so that is a very small portion of what I do, but there's a large portion where I get to go out and be part of conferences and various events where, like I met Paul at the IPTA, Iowa Pupil Transportation Association, and be able to offer these programs that we provide at no cost. Paul used the word free, but I was told not to use the word free anymore. I have to use the word no cost, because somebody's got to pay for it. And pretty much that's everybody. Everybody come April 15th, we all pay for it in some way when it goes into tax dollars and putting into programs like this, because TSA being government funded. So we go out and we give presentations, we do training. I also have different activities with various programs. And so I wanted to basically present some of those programs to you today, and what they could do for a school in a community, and what we've been doing for years now to help schools with their security awareness, with their security enhancement, and going out and being a part of something better for our community, for our world, and everything that we do. When Paul and I went through the tour, so to speak, of a couple of years ago with the Iowa Pupil Transportation Association, I thought that was going to be a one-shot, one-deal thing for me, and that they'd never asked me to come back, because it was pretty much a huge honor to be able to do that. And I know that they have plenty of people on the agenda that would be able to share with all the transportation directors throughout the state of Iowa. And lo and behold, I got an invitation to come and speak with them again this past year. And we went to 9 different schools, and we were able to touch pretty much all of 99 counties within the state of Iowa with their transportation directors that would come to those regional meetings. And so it was kind of unfortunate in a way, because that they asked me to come out, because they wanted me to do an active shooter awareness training for their transportation directors. And it was in light of an active shooter situation that happened this past January in Perry, Iowa, Perry High School, just outside of Des Moines. I would say probably a good 45 minutes or an hour or so northwest of Des Moines, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. A place that you wouldn't think anything would ever happen, because it's not a metropolitan area. A lot of cornfields, a lot of cows, a lot of pigs, a lot of things out there that Iowa is kind of known for. And they woke up one day on January 4th and found themselves with an active shooter in the school. And so they basically wanted us to come out and do a little bit more of awareness training. We're not first responders. We don't go out and pretend to be police or fire department or rescuers or anything like that. We have a job of basically helping folks mitigate the risk. And so that's what we do through these programs. Interestingly enough, we were actually in Perry High School on January 3rd, doing a base assessment for security enhancement with a transportation director. And lo and behold, the next day we wake up and hear everything that we heard on the news about the shooting. And in fact, we were brought into the investigation, which to my understanding is actually still going on to this day, with various things are going on within their community, dealing with that active assailant and so forth that they have. So anyway, it was unfortunate, but actually fortunate in a way. So we were able to go out and help that. So I guess, Paul, if you want, I can go ahead and into the programs that we have.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about some of the, maybe cover kind of the top 2 or 3 for you that are, more popular, maybe a little bit more relevant to the transportation world.
Well, actually, all of these are relevant to the transportation world that I have up there. But and so I'll let you know what is popular. The base is actually is a very popular program where we come in and we do an interview. We usually last about 3 to 4 hours of an interview that we talk with, like a superintendent or principal, transportation director, HR staff, maintenance, operators of the buses. I mean, you name it. If they have something to do with transportation with a school and how it operates, we want to get in there and ask questions about where is their security and how it's functioning, if it's functioning at all. We give them a score based off of a national standard, and based off that score, we were able to come back in with recommendations for security enhancement. And so that's probably one of the more popular ones. We also have what the third down there is RMAS, which stands for Risk Mitigation Activities for Surface Transportation. And that's essentially just going in and giving a presentation to do some training for the drivers. We find a lot of these safety managers or safety directors always looking for something to provide for their drivers on a quarterly or annual basis, and usually right at the very beginning of the year. And so we come in and we do some training about, see something, say something. TSA has always been known for that for years, but specifically to offer them a program called First Observer Plus, where it teaches drivers to observe, assess, and report anything that they might see in their normal course of a workday. Because we know that they're the transportation professionals that know what's supposed to be right, what should look good on a typical day, and what shouldn't look good. If something doesn't look right, or many things don't look right, they'll be the ones to be able to tell what's out of place and have that responsibility to report it into to their dispatch, and then eventually to the local law enforcement and so forth. So those are kind of the two popular ones, and then probably if I put a third one in there, would be the CETA, which stands for Security Enhancement Through Assessment. We have a lot of folks that they just want hands-on security enhancement, and this gives an opportunity where we as the inspectors will come out and we place bags on a random amount of buses depending on the size of the fleet of the school, and we do basically an assessment where we stop the driver as they're going out on the routes after they've done their pre-trip checks, and we'll ask the driver if obviously if they've done their pre-checks, and based off of that answer, which usually is yes because they're required to, but sometimes you'll be surprised. Sometimes the answer is no, that they didn't do it. They say they're going to do it later, which is not really a pre-check at that point because they've already left the barn, so to speak. And so we ask them if they found anything, and if they did, great. We congratulate them, say good job for being aware and cognizant of what's on their bus and so forth. And if they didn't find it, then we use that as a learning experience. It's built in a 3-phase process where we do a pre-assessment to see, are they looking for items on their bus that might be of a security concern, whether it's suspicious or unattended, and protocol to deal with that. And then we come in and do an RMAST or a training session for our phase 2. And then we come back within 30 days and do a post-assessment to see if that training actually helped the drivers, see if they've gotten better at it. And then we do like sustainment CETA, as we call them, where we'll come back periodically after that time just to check in on them, see if how they're doing, what they're doing. And of course, we have the other few that are on there, EXIS, which is a tabletop exercise that we exercise a security plan if the school has one. And then T-START, which is Transportation Security Plan Assessment and Review Toolkit. It's kind of a new item that TSA just developed within the last few years, and just currently now works with Google Docs. It's essentially, I call it the TurboTax for security plans, because it's basically a Word document, and you go down through and you have a drop-down box and you choose and select what kind of security plan you want for that situation. So yeah, it's a pretty, all of these are actually really good things for schools. We use them with mass transit as well, but we've had a lot of schools take advantage of those programs. If you go on to the next slide there, Paul, this basically shows you, I guess from an administrator standpoint, because administrators like these big words like strategic and operational and tactical and so forth. You'll see how those different programs line up in that sense. Having the baseline for assessment is at the strategic level, helping you assess the security policies and procedures and make recommendations. And I have to say, make certain it's clear, again, no cost for any of these programs. And also, it's all voluntary. There's nothing about this that's mandatory for you to do. This is something for you to utilize for your security purposes, for advancement and so forth. So we can knock on your door and you can say, we can give you all that we have and show you what we have, and then you can tell us to pound sand after that and move on down the road. You don't have to do these. We do this as a service where we just want to be there to help. I always use this phrase back in the 80s, and some of you might remember this, but the former President Ronald Reagan used to say, be careful of those 7 words of I'm from the government and I'm here to help. This is actually true. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And I'm one of hundreds of these inspectors that are out there for TSA that works in the surface world. You'll see on that, again, that next slide, if you go back just a little bit, Paul, real quick, to the one with the school buses on it. With the school buses on it. Basically, the RMAS at the end of this free and voluntary program assists the schools and so forth, identifying vulnerabilities and so forth with the school, and provides basically tools to respond to current threats and vulnerabilities. And so this RMAS portion on the next slide, it lets you know what kind of types of programs that we do. Dealing with First Observer Plus, already mentioned that. It's roughly about an hour program that we put on. It's a slide presentation with some video and audio. We also do active shooter awareness as well as active shooter training, where we come in and work with your local law enforcement. I'm about to do that here in about a month over in Keokuk, Iowa, with their school, working with their local law enforcement to do training for the bus drivers. And we tend to try to focus on active shooter or assailant situations where they actually are on the bus and how a driver should handle those situations, because there's a lot of training out there for the schools or the facilities, but we don't see as much for the actual, if you were to have a student, or unfortunately, if there were somehow a non-student got on the bus and opened up fire on the bus, and how to handle that situation. We also have bomb experts within TSA that we go out and work with, do IED recognition or the improvised explosive device recognition, to let drivers know what they look like, bombs look like, and so forth. And so we work with that area. We have intel briefings where we have a field intelligence officer that goes out and gives about a 20-minute spiel of what's out there domestically and internationally, what's going on specifically in the school world, and what's happening currently. And she provides that information, and then we come in with just a general security awareness of how to mitigate those risks of dealing with those situations. Insider threat, you might think of insider threat when it comes to cybersecurity or something like that, but insider threat, actually, we work for the people that you work with, that look for signs and symptoms of potential issues with people that you work with that have inside intel and information about your school, about your organization or company, to help you with that, to recognize that and how to report that. And as well as general security awareness, which is basically a 30-minute or 45-minute program with just general ideas to think about security. Now, here's the thing. We got all of this for you guys, and it's a no-cost program provided by TSA. We'll travel to you to present this information. And if you look at this map here and find out wherever you might be that's on this call today in this webinar, you'll locate where you are in the states here, and you'll see little blue dots, and that indicates where our surface transportation inspector offices are. The different colored code in the states is basically our different regions that we are made up of in TSA for surface. We have 5 different regions. So I want to pull it down just a little bit closer, because you may look at this, and if you have eyes like me, where I'm having to change my reading glasses every year, I want to go into the next slide, Paul, if you show that. And we're going to look over on the basically north to Midwest area to east side. And you'll see where, like, for instance, on the left there, you see Nebraska and Iowa. And I'm located in Omaha, and we serve those 2 states. If you go up to Minneapolis, they obviously serve Minneapolis. And just recently, since this map was made, it has changed, where North Dakota and South Dakota have become property, or I should say responsibility, of our Denver office. But as you look around there, you can see where the red circles are, and that's where you basically will look to have these hundreds of inspectors that are out there that will do these programs that I've just shared with you. You'll be able to contact those offices, and they will help you start these programs. Now, I will tell you, we're going to go through a couple of other slides and show you other parts of the country here in a little bit, but I want to give you my contact information. I would like me to basically be your liaison, so to speak, to contact me, and then I'll put you in contact with that office to ensure that you get that help. Last time that Paul and I did this webinar, I had a good handful of people throughout the U.S. That had called or emailed me rather, and I was able to put them in contact with the right person. Haven't heard from them since, so they're working with them and are all good to go. So you can see there in the southeast, there in the large city of Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Louisiana, Arkansas, where you see those red circles are with Dallas, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, over in Atlanta, Charlotte, Memphis. If it has a blue circle around it, if you're close to those cities, it means that those are still what we call high threat urban areas, and we have inspectors in there all the time, but their office is based out of where the circle is in red. So for instance, in Oklahoma, we have the surface inspectors in Oklahoma City, but it's not, it's pretty typical, I should say, that they're in Tulsa at least 2 or 3 times a week, because they have activities that they're doing in there. So they'd be more than willing to come visit with you if you happen to be close by. If you're not close by to those cities, they would still, you just set up a time for them to come by, and they would like to engage with you and find out what they can serve with you. So you throw up the next slide there.
Yeah,
and I'm
one of the
almost
things,
done.
Ron,
Yeah, go ahead.
because the training obviously is wonderful, but there's also some, because one of the other questions I get asked a lot, not only about training, but is funding. Are there grants available? That type of a thing. And so I've tried to familiarize myself a lot more with this, but you have a couple opportunities that they're not directly related to the trainings, but they're kind of closely associated. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely, and that's here on this slide here, and I'm going to specifically zero in on the program that I called BASE, which is a base assessment for security enhancement. Through that program, by basically seeing what vulnerabilities you have within the school, FEMA has actually come up with a non-disaster grant program that you can basically contact them, set up an account with them, and then work with one of their grant specialists to help navigate through the system of being able to obtain one of their grants. They usually start this program around mid-March or so of every year, and then they close it down roughly around mid-June. And so with that, and I provided the QR code there for you to scan, and that will take you right to that website that's listed there on the screen. And this basically, you want to make contact with FEMA and let them know that you've worked with TSA as a government agency and you would like to apply for their non-disaster grant. Now, I have to tell you, we can't give you advice on how to fill the form out. All we can do is the assessment for you to let you know where you're vulnerable. But because of your partnership with us and collaborating with us through that program, and as well as many of the other programs that we can add on top of that based off of your security situation, FEMA looks on that pretty favorably. And it makes you eligible for the grant. Doesn't necessarily make you guaranteed to get the grant, but you are eligible. And so we do have some folks out there that will apply for this grant and they haven't had any interaction with TSA and they can still get the grant. So I don't know what criteria they actually go through with FEMA. I just know that they look very favorably upon your interaction with a government agency like TSA to help establish or identify your vulnerabilities, and you share that within the grant. So that is one site, Paul, that they're able to look at and basically get some help. I provided a second one there, and I'll help you out, Pat, if you're still listening. CISA is Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Security is so important, they named it twice. And so
Thank you. I couldn't get that while I was on the webinar for some reason. Thank you.
But they actually do have set up as well some cyber grants as cyber security is becoming like a huge issue, and how IT is involved with drivers using tablets and utilizing communications in that way. software development, and such as various companies that have out there. They're making the offer available to drivers and school programs, and they actually have cyber grants that you might be able to take advantage of. I think we had a company out of, I believe it was Minneapolis. I know Minnesota for certain, that actually did take advantage of that and was able to get some grant funding for some security cameras and some various software and so forth that help them with their security for their students. So that's both two areas there, those two QR codes. I'd totally take advantage of those if you can, and utilize them. But give us a call and let us come in and help you out as best we can. There's my contact information. Please feel free, if for some reason you keep this information and 10 to 15 years down the road and Ron Gann has retired, then we have that surface.transoma email that you can use. But for now, give me a call, you send me an email, and I will get you in touch with the right people to get you set up for some security enhancement for your schools.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. I appreciate you sharing that information, because to me, it's like there's so much that you offer that's probably, because you guys, no offense, but you're not the best at promoting yourselves on your website, because there's so much good information that you can share. So highly recommend you guys out there to take a look at that. Thanks again, Ron.
Well, yeah, I appreciate your time. I'm passionate about it. That's why it took so long. Sorry, but maybe going over my time, but I really appreciate it.
We're all good. A lot of valuable information. So next I want Kurt, we're going to talk to him a little bit about trying to get a little bit more resourceful and creative with funding. So Kurt and I met briefly, and I've been working with him because he's actually wanting to bring in the Transportant system into a school district, but the struggle, as a lot of districts, with funding. So Kurt has gotten really creative, and want him to share some ideas about his approach to trying to find funding. So Kurt, if you could just tell us, we met, we chatted, kind of what was your approach from that point on to try to secure some of this funding?
Hi, great to see you. Maybe I'll take one quick step back before I answer that question. So Pequot Lakes is in central Minnesota. We have about 1,700 students, K-12, and we're one of the 10th lowest funded school districts in the entire state of Minnesota. So funding is not abundant in the Pequot Lakes School District. So while Transportant was a good product, it was never going to happen with our current budget. So I have been both involved in the grant review process for some different grants from the state, and then I have applied for different grants, both locally, state level, and some national grants. And so my answers to the questions are from both perspectives. And I should also say, I hate that I have to write grants. I hate that this is become a necessity in school districts to receive adequate funding for some basic needs. And I continue to advocate for just consistent funding across all school districts and not these inequities. But that's another seminar that we probably can get to in a little bit. But either way, so with that, my approach is a couple things. I think the patience and the research, and the more time you put up front, the better you are going to be in the long term. So just the idea of researching, you have a couple different opportunities here. The grants.gov, I do spend, an hour or so every month or two looking at there to seeing what's posted and seeing what's been updated. Just pulled one off the other day and just said, do we have anything that meets these needs? So I think really doing your homework up front makes the back end of the actually applying for it really simple and really easy, especially when you get into doing your time up front, researching what the expectations are, having all of your information in a Word document or Google Doc or whatever format that you use, because I end up cutting and pasting from grants to grants and saying, I'll just use this background information again for the next grant. So I think the research, the planning, and then my third piece is the clear and concise. That's a real easy one for me because that's what I am by nature. I just hate talking or writing about the same thing over and over again. And I think some people with grants and having been reviewing grants, I'm not interested in reading 2 pages that could have been summarized in 2 paragraphs as a reviewer. So I think the same approach goes into when you're grant writing. I think you need to look at or I try to look at the objectives of the grant, the specific criteria that they're looking for, and answer that in my questions and in the information that I give them, and nothing more, because nobody wants to read a bunch of words that could have been summarized with less.
So for the grant writing process, for those of us, because I've never gone through the process, I just hear it's really difficult. Well, you suggested having that Google Doc or something that you could take some of the information back out again. I mean, any other advice to the people out there? Because I think that's the biggest stumbling block, is that people just, it's so much work. It's impossible. I don't know how to do this. Of ways that they can to make this process easier.
It's just work. Ways to make it easier, I guess. I'm very selective in what I can apply for, because I think doing the research is important. So you got grants.gov up there. There's state departments. Each state must have their own OSHA hazardous inspectors, and so we've applied for them and been in contact with them. And because there's part of this that is safety for bus drivers, so I think that's a good area for people to look into in their own state departments. Of course, there's the education departments as well that people can look into. The other area that I think most school districts have access to is E-rate. And E-rate, a couple of years ago, added the ability to have Wi-Fi in buses in their options as well. So I think we're continuing to investigate what we can code and work with under E-rate. So I just think doing the research, and being okay with not getting grants. I mean, I've applied for a lot more than I've ever received, and yet we just received this COPS one it was about 320,000 or something along those lines, which definitely meets our needs. And I've tried to apply for grants, to be honest with you, not to add more programs or not to add more staff, but to find ways to work within our current structures and pay for some of our current expenses. So this bus camera system came about for us because our current bus camera system is not working great. And so this gives us an opportunity to improve it through a grant without adding some fun budget impacts.
All right. Was there anything else that you'd like to share, Kurt?
No, I reach out if people have any questions, but no, there is nothing.
Yeah, Kurt would be a wonderful resource if you're trying to get a little bit more creative, with your grant writing, or just in different places to look, because there are a tremendous amount of state level grants that, obviously it's different from state to state. So, just being creative with all this, I think is really, really helpful. So Kurt, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and everything. And Kurt did mention the E-rate policy, and I did want to talk just a little bit more about that because, and again, trying to stay away from the infomercial, but the E-rate is for Wi-Fi and school buses. And where our system is very unique is that part of what provides our technology, cameras, and all the other things, that same piece of equipment is actually what provides Wi-Fi for all the students with our system as well. So our system has a unique ability to be E-rate eligible, which is really helpful for a lot of school districts. But at the same time, there's other things that are associated with that. It's not just the Wi-Fi. So I highly encourage people to take a look at that. It's a wonderful option. The other thing too is that some companies, including ours, we do offer lease options with our program. So if you're looking to try to get technology into your school buses or whatever technology it is you're trying to work into it, we work with a company called Vantage. So Vantage works with school districts all over the country in providing leasing options for technology. So, with this system, you can actually or with our lease program, you can actually get stuff installed this year and defer the payment till the next year's budget. So some different options, some different ways of being able to take advantage of things and stretch that budget a little bit. So with that, I want to say thank you to everybody that attended. And if you weren't on, if you have a chance to listen to the recording of this, I highly encourage you because there's a lot of very valuable information. There is a handout included in this. There's some frequently asked questions about the FEMA non-disaster grants. Is very helpful. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. And like I said, this is also going to be emailed out to all the people that registered and then also attended. So with that, I want to say thank you very much for your time. And I hope everybody has a great day and a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.